Welcome to A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students, Lesson 247. Without forgiveness, I will still be blind. After I read each one of these titles, I always have to hold back saying wow, because that's what I think every time. Wow, it's so profound. Without forgiveness, I will still be blind. Why does God keep asking us to forgive throughout A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students? Why? Because without forgiveness, we will still be blind. It's that simple. Forgiveness is the secret key, the secret and sacred key that will open any prison door, that allows you to see clearly. Sin is the symbol of attack. Behold it anywhere, and I will suffer. For forgiveness is the only means whereby Christ's vision comes to me. Let me accept what his sight shows me as the simple truth, and I am healed completely. Brother, come and let me look on you. Your loveliness reflects my own. Your sinlessness is mine. You stand forgiven, and I stand with you. I'm going to pause and say another concept from a workbook for students is that until we've forgiven everyone, we won't be able to see our own innocence. So would I look on everyone today. My brothers are your sons. Your fatherhood created them and gave them all to me as part of you, and my own self as well. Today I honor you through them, and thus I hope this day to recognize myself. For me, this idea of forgiving everyone was a huge stumbling block. Because I was like, well, I can forgive 99% of the population, but there's just 1% of like mass murderers or people who have personally traumatized me that I can't forgive, okay? They just have to go to hell. It's that simple. So why do I have to forgive them? For me to see my own innocence, because I'm not like them. I'm better than them. It reminds me of something my friend said to me once, and we were having lunch, and I was telling him about some person who had done something I thought was very unwise, and I was telling him what I would have done instead. And my friend stopped and looked at me and said, well, if you were him, you would have lived his life and had his experiences, and you'd have his DNA, and so you would have done exactly what he did. And that seems so obvious and simple, but it made me pause and reflect, oh, well, that's true. Because I keep thinking, well, if I was in their shoes, but I can't be in their shoes. I didn't have their life experiences. I don't have their DNA. And it's true that if I had, then I would have done exactly what they did. So what am I judging? Their crappy DNA? Or their crappy life? I don't know. But it really brought home that saying of, there but for the grace of God go I. I don't have to celebrate or affirm or say that what they did was right. But I also don't have to pretend that I have the wisdom and the knowledge and the truth to condemn anyone. And that when I do choose to condemn, I'm also condemning an aspect of myself. If it's true that we are one. Now, this human being I'm experiencing being right now, she is never mass murdered or murdered at all, and she's tried to live a pretty good life. I guess that's what happens when you have this DNA and this life experience. You get this. And I'm not perfect in the eyes of ego. In the eyes of ego, I'm just a big mess with tons of flaws. But I've chosen to not look at this through ego. I've chosen to look at this through the eyes of love. That she is whole and complete. She is as God created her, through her nurture and her nature. This can take us down a rabbit hole, and I think this is why a lot of people don't talk about this. Because it's offensive to ego to think, well, then, did God create these people through history who were mass murderers? Did God create them? Or did the thought system of the world create them? Did ego, did fear, did pride, did enmity and lies create them? And God has said, I'm not those things. In a workbook for students, we're taught that God allows us to choose when we come home. And some people take a really, really, really dark and scary and horrific path to get home. And if you aren't willing to go home because you have to stay in hell and make sure the sinners stay in hell with you, then you're going to take a really dark, scary, awful, horrific path to come home. I advise you don't take that path, though it is your choice. And I honor that choice because I honor God, and that is a gift from God that we have that agency to choose. Now, if we say that the nightmare is real, it is real in perception. But it is reality with a lowercase r because it is not permanent. Dreams pass and fade away. But what is eternal will still remain. Thank you for being brave and bold and daring to look beyond the thought system of the world, which isn't wrong, but it is not the whole picture. And I will see you tomorrow for lesson 248.